Hello and welcome. Hi everyone. Chris Veness here from Academy XI. I'm joined by Clodagh. I'll introduce more formally very soon. Thanks for joining so early.
This is great. There's a few familiar faces here. A few of my friends are here, our former colleagues. So thanks for joining. This is fantastic. Hi, Mona. Hi, Mark. Alex, Sarah, Mohammed, Stefan, Neo, Suma. This is great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining, team. Hi there. Yeah, put your camera
Yeah.
on and say hello. We've got time before we kick off officially. I'd like to give it a few more minutes so everyone can arrive and settle in.
Yeah, no worries. Lunchtime session, so I'm sure people are trying to get their lunch in at the same time as listening.
That's right. We hope you brought your lunch so you can eat along the way of this lunch and learn session. We can change the title if unofficially.
Exactly. Hey, Anita, how you doing?
Hey, Clodagh, nice to see you for a long time.
Nice to see you too. This is
Hi,
like a
Suma.
work reunion.
Yes. Hi, Suma.
And thank you to those who have just joined. Welcome to Academy XI. Thank you for joining today's session. We might kickstart. Today's topic is on using AI tools and app development from research through to launch. And this will be led by a good friend and user experience leader, Clodagh Lynch. Before I make an official introduction, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we are from today, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining and participating in this event. And we pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. And we'd like to recognise and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters across Australia. I would like to share that I'm standing on the lands of the Gundungurra people, and I welcome all attendees today to share the lands on which they are from today using the chat feature. So we're absolutely delighted to welcome Clodagh Lynch to our distinguished partner, product design leader with happens to have over 20 years experience driving innovation in design industry. Clodagh currently serves as the user experience leader APAC at Nintex, where she leads highly performing design teams. And throughout her career, Clodagh has held senior leadership positions, including the Director of Product Design at 007 Design Consulting, Head of Product Design APAC at Iris, Global Head of User Experience at Whisper, and Head of User Experience and Innovation at Shavik AI. Her experience spans multiple disciplines, including strategy, finance performance, and innovation. As a passionate advocate of ethical AI and design, Clodagh, she recently completed her certification in using AI in UX design processes and holds additional accreditation in artificial intelligence for design user experience. But beyond her corporate roles, Clodagh serves as a product design coach and UX advisor at the Melbourne Accelerated Program, where she mentors startups in the design journey. She also is an active member of Envision Design Leadership Forum. What doesn't she do? She contributes to the advancement of design leadership practices globally. And outside of design, she's a keen squash player and MCC squash committee member. So, with her unique combination of strategic vision, hands-on design expertise, and commitment to ethical innovation, Clodagh brings invaluable insights to today's discussion on using AI tools for app development from research to launch. So, please join me in giving Clodagh a warm welcome today. Clodagh, welcome, and thank you so much for hosting today, facilitating today's event.
Chris, thank you so much for that introduction. You're making me nervous now. What we're going to talk about is a UX's journey into AI assisted development. And I need to give you a few prerequisites before I start. Um, so, as mentioned, my name is Clodagh Lynch. I'm a UX design leader for a company called Nintex. And I just built a complete web application without being a developer. So today I'll share with you what AI tools I use. And basically, the AI tools became my coding partner and what this means for the future of UX. But the main point I want to make is that I am not a developer. Although I studied computer science at uni, I didn't really like the heavy coding part. In fact, I only liked the fluffy bits, the front end bits, such as JavaScript, PHP, CSS, or HTML. And I used to run a mile from coding things like Java or C++. So throughout my career in consulting, I had the chance to work in many different roles, one of which was front end development, And then later on, I moved into UX. And this is where my heart really landed. I said, finally, I found a career which I really love. The point I'm making once again is that I'm not a developer. And I'll walk you through how I created a solution for managing social squash sessions. The journey took me 4 days in all, and I'll show you the app that I created in 4 days. What we'll cover is the process, learnings, and implications for UX. But just to get you a bit involved, so it's not just me talking the whole time, I want to know who's on the call. I'd like to know what your role is, because this particular talk is really towards designers and PMs, but also it could be beneficial to devs, but I'm sure they know more than me. So could we get you to write into the chat, what's your role, if you don't mind sharing? Oh, I'm seeing service designer, lead UX designer, designer, product designer, business analyst, developer, UX designer strategy, head of product, technical product lead, business analyst, head of UX, BA, marketer, tech writer. Fantastic. So we've got a huge blend here. And I think for any of you that haven't used these tools before, this should help. It might inspire you to give it a go. And I'm going to show you how easy it is as well. So the problem that I wanted to tackle, let me explain this in a bit more detail. You're going to see a messy picture there. So I have spent the last 4 years on a Thursday running social squash. What that means is from 6:30 to 9 p.m., people would rock up at the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre, and I'd usually get between 8 and 28 people. And then my job was to write their names on the board. The second column there shows if they paid or not. Then we had the time of the matches that I was going to set up. So we'd have the 6:30 match that would kick off. And across the top, then you had the courts that we were using for that particular night. You'll see on this particular night, we had courts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So at 6:30, I would ring the bell and all the players that were there would come up and I would match them. So they would see who their match was and they'd know what court they were going to, and off they went. And then usually I do 20-minute sessions. At 6:50, I'd ring the bell again and everyone would come up to the board and check. So it sounds easy, but there was a few challenges. I'm sure if any of you have dealt with the public, it doesn't always run that smoothly. So usually 20 people might arrive at the exact same time and they want to get on the courts straight away. They don't want to be standing around waiting. So once you get their name on the board, they're staring at you going, so, oh, who am I playing? What court am I on? And when you have 20 of them, I needed to find a quicker system for registering people. Usually they're very eager, as I said, and they'd stare at you. The difficult part was knowing people's levels as well and skills and trying to match them with someone of equal skill so that they'd get a really good hit. And I couldn't find any existing solutions out there. So players also wanted real-time updates. For example, if they were waiting and they weren't on court for a particular match, they would ask you every 3 minutes, how much more time till the next session? How much more time? When can I get on? Who will I be matched with? What court am I on? Quick question for you all there in the audience. Can you see any other problems or stressful situations with organizing social squash and dealing with the public?
I've seen some people don't end up turning, they don't come. They would pay, but they would not turn up. So
yeah, that's a really valid point. For our system, we didn't have online paying, so they had to pay me in person. I had to use a Square and they tapped the Square with their card. So that was another thing that delayed me from getting the draw out when people wanted to pay as well. So sometimes I'd just say, yeah, go straight to court 4, I'll take the payment later. But that's a very good example, Suma. I've got a few more here. Latecomers, exactly, because people could turn up at any time. Danny, you've mentioned a really good one there. There was a lot of time when someone rocked up and they didn't like who they were paired with. They might have played them the previous week and they said, oh, that person might have been better than them, or maybe they just didn't get on. Someone was too loud on the court, or someone ran into the other person. So you had all these issues to contend with as well. When using AI, I had the chance to compare like your traditional process against an AI-assisted vision. So let's have a look at the traditional process and see if this resonates with any of you in the design or product world. You spend weeks perfecting a user flow in Figma. You're really excited because you've all the interactions in there. You've got the micro animations, a seamless experience. And then you share it with the devs, and then you do your QA. But when you actually see it live, it looks different or underwhelming to what you originally designed. Has that happened to any of you before? I can see a few of you kind of nodding. Yeah, fair enough. So this is the reality with UX designers. We constantly battle what we call the design development translation gap. We really need to be there for a design QA, and sometimes it can still look different. Our beautiful prototypes become clunky interfaces because the nuances they get lost in translation. Feedback cycles can also drag on for a long time. So you suggest a change, it goes into the next sprint or the next sprint after that, and you see it 3 or 4 weeks later, and you've forgotten what the point of that change was or why it mattered in the first place. There's also the case of you hear, oh no, that's not technically feasible. So you've got this beautiful design and you're thinking that should be feasible. I get the feeling that maybe it requires too much effort than the team wants to invest. And finally, we can't test real interactions with our prototypes. They're basically just prototypes or simulations. So traditionally, you could have a few issues with our normal process. And to build something like the Squash app, my process would be I'd start with discovery work, collecting research, translating these into requirements, then creating wireframes, building the prototype and testing and getting feedback. But a few months back, everything changed for me in specific. A friend of mine, we were meeting online. We usually meet once a week. She's a creative digital media lecturer and a UX designer. And she showed me just offhand this project she'd built in Clodagh. She'd built this really cool dashboard that monitored all of her students that were in her courses, and it predicted the likelihood of them dropping out of the course or not. So it would give her a warning if the student looked like they were going to drop off the course. And she said it had taken her less than 3 hours to do. I couldn't believe it. I was like, it's actually, there's code behind it. And she said, yeah, it's not just like the prototype, it's the full thing. So for a few weeks, I was trying to think, what project could I use so that I could test this out? So what I came up with is the Squash app, and I'll show you exactly what I did. Just instead of me talking about it, I'll press play on this video and I'll talk you through what's happening at the same time. So I put in a particular prompt. It's a really long prompt, pretty detailed, and it talks about exactly what I wanted for my particular Squash app. I said, I'll just read it out as we go. I want to create a Squash Manager app to manage social squash. Now, the reason I'm reading this out is because I want you to see the detail as well that you need to go to get the specific outcome you're looking for. So the prompt is, the problem is that many players arrive at the same time, and I need to match them with someone on their level or similar level. If there are enough players there, if not, just match anyone together. I also need to enter the number of courts that will be available for the evening, and to get you, Claude, to match 2 players per court for the match duration. The match duration will be set by the admin at the start of the session. An admin sets up a session which outlines how many courts there will be, the start time, the end time, and the duration of the matches. So as you can see, I'm going into real detail here. I then go on that I want players to be able to use a QR code to scan in and to sign up themselves through a player form. They can then choose their particular grade. It goes from A to F. And once a player has successfully joined the session, I want them to be redirected to a player's dashboard, which will tell them who they will be playing next, or if they're waiting for the next round to be matched. So they're sitting around waiting. I also wanted a countdown timer on my dashboard and the player dashboard so they could see when the next session was going to start and be alerted. And also on the admin dashboard, I needed buttons to be able to generate matches and to stop the session overall, and a list view of all the players that were in the session. So looking at the video, you can see Claude is generating all the code for me. It's following my prompt and it's going on. I'm going to fast forward it slightly. So it took like maybe 4 minutes to get to there. And now it's telling me, here are the key features that we put into your squash app. So let me talk about my process. I then grab all the code and I copy it. I particularly asked Claude to program it in PHP, just because I'd used PHP before. I pasted the code into a text editor that I could save as a PHP file. And as you can see, I'm naming it test.php. And then I used a piece of software called FileZilla. What that does is on the left-hand side, it shows you all your files on your laptop. And on the right-hand side, it shows you files that are on the server or on a web domain. So I have a web domain called clodagh.ie, and I created a folder called Squash Manager and uploaded the file to that. So if I type in the URL, clodagh.ie, Squash Manager test.php, this is what it generated first time round. Here's the Squash Manager. It's added in its own styles. And I can click on admin dashboard. And this is me setting up a first session. It has catered for all of the inputs that I wanted. I wanted session name, number of courts, the start time of the evening. And you can see I'm putting in the date, and the start time is 6:30 p.m. And then the end time, I'm going to put in at 9 p.m. Did anyone spot anything there? So this is where Claude gets interesting. Sometimes it does everything perfectly, and sometimes you have to start the chat, engage with it. You can see that it was updating the screen every like 20 seconds. So as I'm trying to enter the information, it's resetting the form. So this is a bug, obviously. So it was a good attempt. This is one that you just keep having to talk to Claude to get a different outcome. What I'm going to do is move on to the next video. And this was actually the very first time I used it. I've done this many, many times, and I wanted to record a version last night. So that's the one you just saw with the mistake in it. But this was the first time I did it. It generated this particular app for me, and it was a bit better. So I used the same process. I put in my big prompt and it generated this. So this time I'm able to put in the name of the session, the date, the number of courts that I'm going to need, the start time, the end time, and then match durations. Usually I would set match duration to 20 minutes, but let's say I had 30 players that wanted to play, then I might set it to 10 minutes. This is the dashboard I created. And I was thinking, oh, for a first go, that's not bad. I clicked on join session and there was a link and I could add a player. This is my dashboard. Now, when I go back to the admin dashboard, see at the bottom left, my name is there. I'm in the draw. So I want to add another player so that maybe we can match these two players in a game. So first of all, it's adding them to the session. So down the bottom, you can see the names that are in the session. And then I can click generate matches. This really wasn't bad for a first generation. You could see it told me how much time was left in the game. If I wanted to add one more person, I wanted to see what the status would look like. See the player dashboard? This player isn't matched with anyone, so they're currently waiting. And here's the admin dashboard. At the bottom right, you'll see James Dean waiting. And then I could reset. So this was a better generated version. And it was, yeah, a first version from a few days ago. And I had the bones already of everything that I wanted for my squash app. There were things obviously that I wanted to change, but that took 5 minutes altogether. So question for you guys. What's the longest you've ever waited for a simple feature to be implemented? Two weeks, 6 months, 3 days, still waiting, one sprint, months. Yeah, Yeah, so I had a quick answer to this myself just in case. So I've waited 5 months before, and the feature kept getting shelved or reprioritized. And sometimes I've waited even longer, whereby it was never built because priorities shifts. This happens all the time. But imagine creating a prototype within 5 minutes that you could use and tweaking it through your prompts and then being able to use that instead of having to design, iterate, wait. This could speed up efficiency big time. The iteration process is the fun part. Basically, you're putting in prompts and prompts and prompts over and over again to get what you want. So I'm going to show you some quick changes that I made to my particular app. First of all, you'll see bottom left is that form you saw earlier, the create session form. And it has nearly everything, but I wanted a field in there that said session duration. So you can see on the right, this is the second form it generated. And bottom right, it tells me the session is going to be 2 hours, 30 minutes. And yeah, so that was perfect. That's what I wanted. I also wanted the dates to be already in there by default. So the session start date, by default, it would have the date that was today. So it just makes it easier to edit. You don't have to type in the complete dates the whole time. You just need to tweak. Maybe I'm changing the month by 1 month, or maybe I'm just changing the day by 1 day. More tweaks. As you can imagine, the main issue with the app was that loads of people would arrive at the same time. Or, sorry, the main issue with Social Squash is loads of people would arrive at the same time. I wanted a way of them being able to manage their own profile, putting in their own name and their ranking. And I had tested out using a QR code before, but there was a range of abilities technically. So some people would rock up and they'd look at the QR code and go, oh no, I can't use that. So I needed another way. So I asked ChatGPT or Claude, I want the ability to add a player to the draw via email. And it generated this email box for me straight away. It also generated a stylish email, see on the right-hand side, and you click on the green button to be added. And just, there's 2 other pictures here. There's how the email looked on my iPhone. You see it added in a little tennis ball, which I thought was a nice touch. And then the bottom one here is how the email looked in Gmail. And on the right-hand side, it also added in an icon, the tennis ball and the racket. So this was really cool, I thought. Obviously, squash players would be extremely insulted because it's not tennis, it's squash. But these were small tweaks that I could add to slowly. I thought it was a really cool suggestion. Yes, this is what this was like the backup. I wanted to be able to add a player manually. Reason being, if they weren't getting the email and they couldn't use the QR code, I thought, well, at least then I can add them manually really quickly. But I won't tell people I have this manual thing. I'll try and get them to set up themselves first. So I did want that functionality in there. And this was the QR code. So this would be on my admin dashboard, which I'd have on my phone, let's say, or on an iPad. And I could just go, yeah, scan this to all the players as they come in. I could even print out that QR code and put it on the wall so people could scan it and they could leave me alone to set up different things. So when they scanned this particular QR code, the screen on the right would appear, which is the player dashboard. And as you can see, they can put in their own name and they can choose their level. One reason I wanted them to choose their own level is squash goes from grade A or level A to grade F. And sometimes in squash, you get a rating once you start playing or a grading. And 750 and below is F grade. But there's different leagues. So you might be playing, you're in the official title of Australia, you're in F grade, but you might be playing in a different league where you're B grade. So someone might come to me and I might say, what's your ranking? And they'll say 750. And I'll go, oh, okay, you're in F grade. And they might be highly insulted. They go, I'm not F grade. They see it as something really bad because they're playing in B grade. So I wanted to skip all this and not have people be annoyed with me. So I wanted them to be able to choose their own grading. And then if they didn't like their grading later on, if they realize, oh, I'm too high, I'll downgrade myself a bit so I'm playing people more on my level, they could do it themselves. And that took the stress out of my job where they'd be like, I'm not an F grade. So yeah, that was the idea of the sign-up form. Claude had different ideas though. I put in multiple different iterations, and what I wanted it to do is once the user was on the player dashboard, I wanted them then, once they've hit join, to be brought to see the very right screen, the player dashboard here, where it had their status, their name, they could edit, they could leave a session, and it told them when the next match would be and who they'd be matched to. Unfortunately, Claude had different ideas, and it was going from, see the screen on the very left. So once they hit join session, it was taking them to the second screen on the left, which is the access dashboard. This is a dashboard I just created for myself as kind of like the developer so that I could see all areas of the platform while coding. So it took multiple iterations of me going, no, Claude, it's still not working. Change this, Claude, do this, do that. And Claude would print out your code each time. So it might take 5 to 15 minutes per prompt, and you'd be hoping it would work. And you troubleshoot. So it probably took around 5 or 6 hours just to get this to do the right thing. Also, I wanted the player to be able to leave whenever they were finished. They could click the leave session. Or if they hit the leave session button by accident, that see on the right-hand side, it will tell you you've left, but you could also rejoin if the session was still active. So that would save time for me, or they could just scan the barcode again. Other functionality, you'll see in the previous screen, I had the leave functionality if they were leaving for the evening. However, half the time they couldn't be bothered hitting the leave button. They're literally finished squash and they don't care, and they just walk off without leaving. Now think about if they're still in the draw and I'm generating a new draw, but there's people gone. So I might match John Wayne with Jane Fonda, but Jane's already gone. So that would be annoying for me. So on my dashboard, I also needed the functionality to be able to delete or make the players leave if they had left. So you can see on in the image here, what was generated was the details of the player, and on the right-hand side, a red X, so that I could make them leave. There's a few more pieces of functionality that I want to show. This is what the matches look like. It showed me the court details and the people on court. And then I really needed to be able to edit all the matches. So I wanted Claude to generate that edit all matches button for me. I'll tell you why. So let's say I put Sarah Connor and Jack Black on court 1. And Sarah Connor doesn't turn up on court 1. She's on the phone, or she might have gone to the bathroom. This used to happen all the time. And then I'd have Jack Black coming up to me going, hey, where's Sarah? She's gone. So I needed to be able to go into edit all the matches and add in an extra person if needed, swap them around, add someone from that waiting list. I also needed the generate matches and complete current round buttons. And finally, there was that session form at the start that I set up where I'd say the amount of courts and the duration of the session and the match length. I needed to be able to edit that, because let's say at the start of the evening I had 8 participants, and then within another 20 minutes another 20 arrived. I might want to change the match length to something like 10 minutes so that the rotation happens quicker, people get more matches. So I needed the edit sessions and then end sessions at the end of the evening then as well. I think, as I mentioned before, I wanted a timer on my dashboard and the player dashboard so people wouldn't ask me questions. One of the most common questions, as said, was, oh, when am I on next? How much time till the next session? At least then they could look at the dashboard I had, or alternatively, they could look at their own player dashboard. Question for you. Thinking about all the functionality that I've just added in so far, is there anything else that you might add? Oh, I see a few questions. I can see how much did all this cost at the end and so on. Ah, that's a very good one. Karen, you have a payment option. That is a very good idea. Good thinking. I should be making a list of these things. Someone has asked, what are the limitations of Claude? I'll get to all of those at the end, definitely. So I'm going to show you, oops. Oh, we're gone. Let's do a live demo. So this is me in the live system that's built. and I'm going to set up the name of the session. I'll do the 4th, which is today from 6:30 to 9. Let's do 5 courts and 15 minutes and 2 hours and 30. Here's the setup. Can I get a few of you to scan the barcode and join the session? Also, if anyone would like to give me their email address, or I'll demo with my email address and show you the email functionality. Has anyone got the chance to scan that barcode? Alex, I'm in. Great stuff. Anyone else in? Chris, I'm in. Awesome. So if I scroll down, oh, look at this. Fantastic. There's loads of people in. So this lists all the people being added to the session live. So as I scroll down, the last person in was Sarah Gillard. Oh, we just had Dave Morgan after scanning in. And as you can see, it has your level. Suma's just been added, has your level and your weighting. You haven't been matched just yet. So with that said, we've got 5 courts. I'm going to generate the matches. I click generate matches. Scroll down again, the timer has started, and you'll see on 5 courts, we've got Eden versus Chris, Ben versus Amrita, and let's scroll down. There's still people on the waiting list. See, Latal is on the waiting list here. Well, let's say for some reason Chris gets injured, so we want to swap him out and put Latal on that court. I'm going to click edit all. Here's Chris, and I'm going to swap him out with Latal and click save. And now we have Latal, and Chris should be back in the waiting. Chris Veness is now still waiting. There was a few other ways. Do you remember I mentioned earlier I wanted like an email way of adding people as well? So I'll just demo on myself. I'm going to send myself an email. It says it's sent. Let me see. Oh, there we go. And here's the email, what it looks like. And we have a register for squash sessions button. When I click that, it allows me to add, and I can add my level and join. Registration successful. And as you can see, as the player, it redirected me to the player dashboard. Let's say I want to change my grade or my name, edit details. I'll put Clodagh M. Lynch because there's already a Clodagh Lynch in the draw, and I can change my level and save. Going back to the dashboard, there I'm added at the very bottom. So yeah, there was a few things. And then manually, if I did want to add someone, let's say Jane Fonda, I can click add. Now this is the functionality I didn't want to use because I wanted them to do it themselves. And there, Jane's added at the bottom. So thank you for helping me demo the particular, the live thing. I'm going to end, or I can complete the current round, and then I could do another generate match, and it would generate new people. Let's see. So this is the bit that I thought was really fun, the styling. You could use a few different methodologies to style your particular app. I'm going to hit play to show you how I used 4 different styles pretty much. I used a few commands. I uploaded an image and I said, take the styles out of the image. I told Claude to go and get the style sheet from a website that I liked and use that for my styles. And yeah, let's step through these. So my first command with the styling was, I want to create a new style for my app. Here's the code for my app, and I pasted that in, as you'll see. And I want you to recommend all of the new CSS styles and write them out for me, and I will copy them into my coding file myself. Some of the directions I asked for were the app should be vibrant and use bright, in-your-face, ecstatic colors. just to clarify, the reason I asked Claude to only produce the styles for me was because Claude had a habit of rewriting the entire code. And that was over 4,000 lines, and it could take up to 20 minutes in length. So it was easier if I just asked it for the styles and I could copy and paste it in myself. So let's fast forward this video a bit. There's me having put in the code and clicking play, and it's starting to do all the CSS for me. As you can see, it's generating all the CSS. It took, I think, around 3 minutes. And then it gives me this description on the left. So it says, look, I used your color palette for you. There's animated gradients, neon glows, animated backgrounds. There's a responsive design for mobile and so on. So I copied all this CSS. Once again, I went into my file and deleted all the styles in my current file and pasted these new styles in. So this is me pasting them in. This is me copying the new file across, and let's load. This is what it gave me. And if you notice, the background is actually changing color as you go along. It's going from blue to green to purple to pink, and it rotates. I thought it was a fun idea. However, I did see some accessibility issues. You can't read half of it. So I got back to Claude and I said, oh, this is a fun idea. And I wanted to check out the buttons, the contrast in the coloring for the buttons as well. You can't read the text on half of it. So it wasn't ideal. So yeah, that was just the first iteration, but I thought this was great. So after that, I started messing around with more detailed prompts. Now, this particular prompt is a monstrosity, as you can see, but I wanted to test out how much of it could understand. So I said, let me see. I said, I don't want you to alter the code at all except for the CSS. Please create a separate style sheet for the app code with the following guidelines. Create a design style for the Squash app. Please create a perfect balance between elegant minimalism and functional design. Now, I can copy and paste this particular prompt into the chat for you all to see afterwards. It's a hefty prompt, but this is what it created for me. So you can see this kind of a gradient in the background. There's some issues there. The buttons are coming up in white and you can only see them when you hover over them. You use kind of a gradient in the background again. Some buttons can't be seen. The match timer was not working, it's looping. And you can barely see the quartz outline there or the status on the players. So it wasn't the best, but it was a starting point if you wanted to tweak from there. So after that, I decided I'll go to a particular website, and I was looking for one that had bold or bright colors. And let's see if Claude could rob or borrow the styles from that particular website. So I chose Sporty HQ. This is a site that holds all the squash results all over Australia. And there's Sporty HQ, just to give you a better example. And this is what Claude generated for me. So this is another version where it had borrowed all the styles from that particular website. You'll see it's blue and white and gray pretty much, and it uses the fonts from that website. Some of the elements were nicely designed. The fonts were nice. Some of it was neat. But some of it you'd need to continue on tweaking. You can see down the bottom, at least it had these statuses of playing or waiting now in different colors. In the last one, it all came up in white. Let's move on to the next method. So I also wanted to see if I could download an image that I liked and if Claude could take the styles from that particular image. So I went to a site called Mobbin. Mobbin gives you screenshots of any application on the web. Now, you usually have to pay for the service, but there's a few screenshots that are free. It's really good for inspiration when you're building an app. So with Mobbin, let's have a look here. This is Mobbin here. You can get app screenshots or sites. There's hundreds. I'm on the free version, so it only gave me a few. Just showing you what the sites look like here for inspiration. It's really good if you have to design complex patterns and you want inspiration from another product. So I downloaded a file from Mobbin. I gave Claude my code and I uploaded that image as well. So you'll see me upload that image here in a second. Here's the image, and away it went. Now I'm going to fast forward so you don't have to sit through the coding. I did the usual. I copied and pasted the coding once it came out, and then I moved it from my local computer onto my laptop. And this is what the platform looked like when it robbed or borrowed the styles from an image, which I thought was fantastic. And finally, oh, it's not playing. Here, there's a bit of a walkthrough of this one. You can see it used gradients all over the buttons. So it's really a preference that you might need to tweak further. I think from UX perspective, there's a lot of tweaks I'd like to make, but I thought it was a great starting point. You can see the edit matches and so on. And then the last thing I wanted to do is, I wanted to see if they could create a dark mode. So I just put into Claude, create a dark mode for me, and this is what it created. It used blues and purples and different shades of gray and black then as well. I really liked this one in particular. So there could be a toggle for dark mode or bright mode, depending on your preference. And then this was the dashboard and how it looked as well. Okay. With the reformatting, I'll run through a few quick examples for you. It was like the domino effect. Sometimes you'd ask Claude to redesign something and it would do it perfectly. For example, in one of the designs, you might have noticed on the left-hand side, the dashboard was split between two columns and only one column on the left had all the players list. So when a lot of players signed up, I couldn't see the full list. So I wanted it to be two columns across the dashboard, and it coded it for me like that. I was like, fantastic, that was so easy. There was other cases when this is the edit matches panel. See the top left? I didn't think the design was very clear. The boxes seemed to be all over the place. So I kept tweaking with it. This was another one until it got to the third one here, which I liked. It was a clear layout and it kind of really differentiated between the courts and the players as well. And here's the dark version, which I liked. Troubleshooting, as I said, sometimes the formatting or the troubleshooting was so easy, sometimes it was a nightmare. I think I brought up the example earlier about you fill in the register for session form and it was bringing you to the access dashboard. What it was supposed to do is bring you to register for session to the player dashboard. This just stopped working and I asked Claude, I spent around 4 or 5 hours in it, and eventually it helped me with the debugging. You'll see there's the second section in this dashboard shows a debugging section, which it helped me put in. And this is my final dashboard now, but you'll see it left out this section here. So match status and timing just vanished. And I was really upset because I really liked that part. So I knew I had to go back again and tweak and tweak. So it can be a domino effect. You fix one thing and something else is broken. So it's a matter of, just like in development normally, you build something new and then you have to regression test or test for bugs on every other functionality piece that you already have. So the highlights. I'll go through these kind of quickly because I think you've seen what the highlights are so far. There was real-time updates without the page refresh. As you noticed, when you were adding yourself to the dashboard earlier, it automatically updated the admin dashboard. I didn't have to keep clicking refresh, refresh. You were just added automatically when new people entered the system, which was great. There was intelligent matchmaking. In other words, if there was less than 9 people in the draw, it would just match anyone with anyone to play. If there was more than 9 people, it would look at your grade and say, okay, well, this person's an A grade. Let's try and find them someone on their level so they'll have a more competitive match. It used progressive web app capabilities. This is where it's like a native app or near to a native app, but it has functionalities such as offline capability, push notifications, or automatic updates as well. Speed, this was huge. So what took me 4 days, I think, to build this, if you had a team of designers and development team, might take 2 or 3 sprints. It could take 2 weeks, it could take 4 weeks. So this was a really quick way of turning it around. The UX highlights, it really helped me with intuitive user flows. I typed in what I was picturing in my head and it structured those in user flows with me, which I absolutely loved. There was clear information hierarchy, which really helped as well. It automatically designed responsive patterns. So I can look at this particular squash app, I'll show you here, and I can put it on a desktop as we have now, or it can be on a tablet or a mobile, which is fantastic. It's all inbuilt. And there was some accessibility considerations that it built in. So I was checking the tab index, what's it called? The order, and that was perfectly designed. So you could tab index if you were a keyboard user instead of a mouse user or using your finger. It was using the proper correct order and so on. So these were all things I really admired. What it taught me, what was really cool is I had a list of requirements in my head as I was going along to build this, but it helped me find those edge cases. So if you look at the pictures here, you'll see on the left in the admin platform, we have a guy called Tom already as a player. If I wanted to add another player, or if you were signing yourself up and you wrote the name Tom, it would automatically tell you, look, this name's already taken. Please edit it to be added to the draw, so that there wasn't two conflicting people with the same name, which really helped me. As I said, the accessibility was fantastic. It built it in, it really thought about it, and it went from a mobile first approach, and it built in graceful degradation as well, which means like this app is built for all the modern browsers, but it can also still work on the older browsers as well, which is fantastic. I'm going to show you in 2 minutes flat how other platforms use this. So I had a look at lovable.dev, and it's the exact same. You put in some code and it generates the dashboard for you. I used the exact same prompt from Claude, and I Googled afterwards because this is the dashboard it generated for me, and I thought it was so similar to Claude. So I Googled, does lovable.dev use Claude? And they said yes. So I'm basically using the same product, it's just embedded. So this is what it looked like. I looked at magic patterns and it was very similar. This is what it generated. This was the sign-in form. This was fantastic as well. It was done the exact same thing. I used the same prompt. Then I had a look at Stitch. This is a Google product, Stitch with Google, and you can sign up for all of these for free, by the way. They want to get you hooked now, so I would use as many as these products now while they're still free, and you can test them out. So the difference with Stitch was, if you look at the dashboard here, it actually generated all of these for me, so I could scroll across to see the rest of them, and you could edit it. If I clicked edit, it would put the image back in the prompt box at the bottom left, and you could type in what changes you wanted. This was really cool though. It had a copy to Figma button. So you could copy the design straight into Figma, edit it straight away, and then upload it again and start changing it on the fly from there. So that was extra functionality that didn't exist in the other ones. It's a question for you all. I've talked for a long time. What tools are you using? What tools would you recommend that I should put on my list to test out? Oh, vo.dev. Okay, awesome. What does that do, Karen? Is that similar? We've got Bolt.
Yeah, it's similar to Claude. I actually started with Claude and moved to VODev. And sometimes I'm asking each of them to actually review the design of each of them and try to get the input from those AI tools.
Great stuff. That's one I put on my list. And then I've also got Bolt. Alex, have you, what's that? Is it similar? Bolt
Oh,
has a
yes. Bold is really good for the integration with Figma. So it's very
Okay.
easy to, yeah. So it is very similar to Stitch, where you can actually copy your screens to Figma as well.
Fantastic. Cool. They're on the list. And then there's Replit as well from Fabienne.
Yeah, it's another great one. I'm in love with it. Very similar to what you're doing there.
This is fantastic. Thank you for the tips. This is great. They're on the list. I'm nearly finished. I have 2 more slides. So what does this mean for UX? I think in the long run, it is really good for UX. It's going to speed up our process, but we need to be the operators of the tools. We need to keep ourselves in jobs by knowing how to make our jobs way more efficient and quicker. The opportunities, as you can see, is rapid validation, test real interactions, not just clickable prototypes. We've got technical feasibility, which is understanding the constraints through build, and then end-to-end ownership. We can take a project from concept to launch. There's real user research as well. So you could study actual usage patterns, not just simulated using prototypes. You can do it quicker now by doing something real. And the challenges, so quality control. AI doesn't always make the best UX decisions, and that's where you need the UXer to guide the build, to say where should the buttons go, how should the layout look, and what colors should be used. Then there's technical debt. You need to understand the long-term implications because the code mightn't integrate with others pretty much. User empathy. So don't lose focus on human needs and don't lose our empathy towards our customers. I think that's one of our main skills as UXers. We bring the empathy and we empathize with the customer to build the best solutions for them. And this can't be taken over by AI. So this is where our skills are invaluable. Things that I learned and didn't need to learn. So I did need to learn how to communicate technically, and how to express what requirements I needed, how to debug, and when to push back on AI as well. Whereas things I didn't need to know, programming syntax, database design, server configuration, and framework specifics. These were things I would hate to have to look up and have to learn. So it helped me out doing all that grunt work for me. So lastly, I'm going to leave you with this thought. I was thinking about it. A year ago, I was a UX designer who could only dream in Figma. And today I'm a UX designer who ships real products in a matter of days. So the question isn't whether AI will change our field, it's whether you lead that change or be left behind. So the message is, be the operator of the AI tools. That's where the safe space in the future is. If you're the orchestrator of the AI tools, it will benefit you in the long run. Question then, and this is the end of me talking. Looking at that, what would you be inspired to build? Have you any projects in mind where you'd say, oh yes, okay, cool, I'm going to give this a go? Portfolio. Nice one, Olivia. Alex, an app to manage dog seizures. Interesting. Amrita is saying a wellness app. Eden is saying a book reading club app. Nice. Suma, my daily habit building. Karen, I'm currently using AI in my day-to-day. Nicola, basketball subs rotation for matches. This is fantastic. Good stuff. Just as a segue to pass back over to Chris, the things that I used today, I used prompt engineering. You could see how I messed around with the different prompts as I went along, and the more detailed, the better. So there's a course by Academy XI that does prompt engineering. I think someone asked a question about security earlier. Like, I haven't really taken any security or scalability elements into consideration. These are all things I'd need to do because, as you can see, I'm saving people's names and their emails, which is PPI information. So there's a course there from Academy XI on cybersecurity as well, which would cover all of that. And I think they run a course on AI, which is an accelerator, building and deploying an app, like just what I did, but it would step you through all these different variations and how to do it. Cool. I'll pass back over to Chris.
Ah, thank you so much, Clodagh. I urge everyone on the call, all attendees, to share your thoughts, thanking Clodagh today. I'm blown away with today's session. Thank you so much, Clodagh. That was amazing. The speed in which you turned around app development was just staggering. It's quite mind-blowing actually. And I love the demo, the walkthrough for iCloud integration to FileZilla, all the way through to styling the app, which is a great journey in building your first app. So we really hope that everyone here today received a huge benefit from attending. So thank you so much. And I'd like to add that I'm thankful, Clodagh, that you removed me from my match with Eden due to my ankle injury. I saw that Eden was ranked as a more advanced squash player. So I'm really pleased that you had that functionality that you could rotate me because of that accident. So thank you. I'm off the hook from Eden there. I personally feel inspired to begin developing my own ideas for an AI app, and I hope everyone here got a lot out of today's session as well. So as I've mentioned in the chat, to all attendees, we hope you enjoy this session, but we're offering an end of financial year promotional offer. So everyone here receives 20% off any courses offered by Academy XI, including the courses that Clodagh mentioned earlier, which is the AI Accelerator, that's building and deploying your first AI application. It's only a 30-hour course. We have an AI prompt engineering, the duration is 30 hours. And we have the AI and cybersecurity, which is detecting cyber threats in AI, which is 4 hours. Plus, if you're a business leader, we have the AI Advantage product, which is a very exciting new product to our portfolio. So again, Clodagh, big thank you for hosting today's session, facilitating this amazing demo. Thank you so much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I see that everyone that's left comments has as well. Thank you so much.
Chris, can I ask one huge favor? I'd love to take a screenshot of everybody here.
Yes.
If you have your picture taken, could I ask people to turn on their cameras and give us a quick wave? And this will be going on LinkedIn, so feel free not to turn on your camera if you don't want to see. Thank you. Great stuff. There's a few cameras coming on. Give us a wave. Say cheese. Thank you all. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. We'll close the session out, but have a fantastic day, and thanks for joining today. Have a
See
great
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye.